welcome to That Dog Training Show with Tanya Yarbrough. And this is Tanya Yarbrough. So if this is your first time listening, you might get scared. So make sure the kitties aren't listening because I'm still working on my potty mouth. And this is a show where we talk about the dogs we love and the stupid human behaviors we don't, also known as shubs. So real quick, I just wanted to remind you folks who are in the Los Angeles area or Orange County or Valencia and so forth, that there are going just to be a few classes starting up at Blue Collar Working Dog where I teach group classes, but I am also going to be joined by a lot of new trainers in the next couple of months, so I want you to keep an eye out for that. Tree Ball is going to be starting on February 13th, and that is basically urban herding where the dogs get to run around on rubberized floors indoors and move large rubber balls all over the place and on command and that sort of thing. So it's a great way to learn how to exercise your dog indoors and eventually outdoors and use those herding instincts they might have and burn off some energy. And then I have Movie Tricks starting on the 21st, Movie Tricks 1, which is a short class. It's really easy, a lot of fun, a lot of giggling and hanging out with your dog. So it's worth learning how to do little tiny things to help build their self-esteem and even get the hang of training. You can train your dog to do just about anything, like open your doors, but do not train your dog to open the refrigerator door. Then there's also on the 21st of February, the Pack Leadership 101 seminar, which this last one, just this last Sunday, was amazing. We had like 20 people, and we had a good time. It was really inspiring. It was great questions. It just fantastic. It was good for me, good for them. It was lovely. So if you want to come and just get 3 hours of a one-woman comedy show about dogs and ask all kinds of questions, that's your gig, baby. That's it. So check out bluecollarworkingdog.com to check out the details. Look in the training tab, and if you're so interested, you should check out the store. It's like the IKEA for dogs with, all kinds of like activity stuff for your dogs to do, like running up ramps and doing weave poles and all kinds of stuff. So really interesting. So good stuff. So this week's episode is called, this is number 72, folks. This week's episode is called The Running of the Hounds. There's a tiny bit of ridiculous, geeky play on the running of the bulls, but it's not too far-fetched in terms of the attitude and the danger. I was inspired by an experience this week, a shubs move by someone, a neighbor of some sort. I was walking my two little dogs, and for those of you who don't know, I have Chihuahua mixes because of some patience. So I have two little dogs, they're like 10 pounds and 6 pounds. And I'm walking them, and I see this woman running with her dogs. Well, actually, that's exactly how you should, say it, running with her dogs, because her dogs were way out in front. She had a hands-free waistband leash, about 6-foot leash off of her waistband, and she had her two large dogs connected by a Y connector, and they were way out in front, and they're running, and she's just behind them by at least 8 feet, and they see my dogs. They're all alert, and I'm like, oh crap. So I get my two dogs on my right side, hoping to pass by, because you're supposed to in this country move over to your right so that people can pass by. That's what I heard anyway. So I'm like, all right, great. So I'm going to make sure I'm going to alpha split. I'm going to put my body between my dogs and those dogs so that my dogs know I'm taking care of the issue, and there's a little bit of extra space between the 4 dogs, 2 and 2. So I'm moving along. I have not changed my gait. I have not given the woman eye contact, and her dogs are getting more and more, one's growling, groaning, and got his hairs up, and he's got his ears perked up, and his tail's high, and the other one is going that direction, although not as intense as the first one. So I'm trying to get by, and lovely Shubster stops. She just stops in the sidewalk, or she stops her run. And I'm like, heel to my dogs while I'm walking by, and then she says, oh, you're training. I'm like, not only that, but you didn't freaking ask me if I wanted to have the dogs meet on the sidewalk, all right? And I said, I don't let dogs interact on leash, and kept going. I was just so angry, and I know so many of you have expressed the same anger, students and clients of mine, and etc. I would say friends, but I don't have a lot of friends because I do that kind of thing, call people out. But this is so wrong on so many levels, not only for the woman herself, but for her dogs and for everybody else's dogs and safety and well-being on the street. So I'm just going to cover this all up, and it reminds me that a lot of times when I teach people how to properly heal their dog, then they all of a sudden come to me and have this confession time and say, but I run with my dogs, 3 days a week, and what would I do then? Do I let them go out in front? And I'm like, no, you don't, because heel is heel. If you've got the leash and collar that you're using for your walk and expect your dog to actually follow parameters that you have trained them to do, you are undoing your work and, more than anything, confusing them by letting them run ahead of you in the same leash and collar. So I want to talk about the dirty details of how you go about dealing with this and why it's so wrong to do what this woman was doing, and what you can do instead if you want to run with your dog or dogs. So let's break down the shubs here. First of all, she's got her dogs running in front of her. Wrong answer. When a dog is running in front, of you, if their nose is past your forward kneecap, they are in charge of the pack, not you, which means that they are in charge of protecting the pack, and it means they're in charge of initiating, it's apparently too hard for me to speak English today, initiating the investigation of the environment. Those are your two main jobs as pack leader, as the alpha in a pack that is on the move. All right? Well, kind of true for not on the move, but mostly on the move. So when it comes to that, if the dogs are out in front, who's the alpha? The dogs are. Who's making the decisions about whether they initiate contact with other packs, whether they stop to pee, whether they go into chasing a squirrel? Whose job is it at that point? It's the dogs in front of you. You right? So now we're if they act up in a way you don't want them to, if they make a decision you didn't want them to, you're going to have to break rank and actually try to get them to follow you. Well, hormonally, they're already in the mode of, I'm the boss. So you're trying to derail a crazy train on a biological level. So that's completely a shubster move, stupid human behavior, because it's just not even logical to set up your dog for failure or yourself for failure on a pack, especially when you are moving that fast. So going on to number 2, if your dogs are moving fast towards another pack, that is called charging. And I'm not talking about the credit card type. I'm talking about inciting a fight. I'm talking about taking on extra space and moving quickly towards another dog out in front as the boss, and other dogs are going to take that as an aggressive behavior, which actually technically it is. So you are encouraging your dog to charge other dogs, to come into their space and be out in front and full of energy and come quickly. This is wrong, wrong, wrong for dog socialization. That brings me to number 3, dog socialization on the leash. Why in God's green earth would I let my 2 little Chihuahua mixes interact with dogs who are already jazzed up hormonally because they're an alpha, jazzed up hormonally because they're actually running fast and forward and towards my pack? And that, why in God's green earth would I say, okay, let's be friends? No. Wrong answer, everyone. Do not do that. I don't care if you're walking or running. Do not associate with other dogs on leash that are out in front of the owners. Wrong answer. Your dogs will pick up the smell of that dog. It's already thinks, I'm the boss, I'm it, I'm the one you go through. If that dog decides to be a jackass to your dog, guess what? You're going to have to protect your dog, and you're more likely to get bitten if you try to interact with that. So, and I have no problem getting bitten. I'll do it, but I don't think you're comfortable with that. And I think you'd better not try to actually get yourself in a situation where you're going to get bitten. Okay? So, in general, folks, I don't let dogs interact on leash, period, unless they are so bored of the universe around them that all they're going to do is just kind of smell each other from a distance and relax and focus on their owners. That is the only time I let them meet. Because I'm telling you, those dogs met my dogs by smell and sight way down the street. Way down the street. Same with my dogs. I had to calm my dogs down and not let them get their hackles up and keep them focused on the heel. So it's not like they haven't met already. They don't need to butt heads. They don't need to shake hands. They don't need to make eye contact. That is shubster behavior. That is anthropomorphizing ourselves onto the dogs, thinking we have to shake hands. You don't have to shake hands with all of your neighbors when you walk by. And if you think you have to make eye contact and say hello to everybody, well, good for you. But you actually don't. If I did that as a single woman or even a married woman, but just by myself out on the street, right? Made eye contact with everybody on the street. If you all know what Los Angeles is like, you're asking to get tailed, stalked, or whatever. So you're not required to say hello to everybody. You can be not rude by moving over to make sure people can pass by, which was number 4. I had to freaking walk into the poop land of grass, even though it's on the west side. People on the west side are lazy a lot of times. They may have more money. They may be very concerned about the environment, but they can be really lazy. So it really isn't that much better than going to like Koreatown or East LA in a lot of ways. So I had to walk onto the grass with my dogs and make my dogs feel like I had to veer away from these other dogs, like I'm scared of them. But really, I'm just scared of the owner because she's not so smart. She's a shubster. She's doing shub stuff up and down the street all the time. All right? Number 5 shubs move, by the way, just as a personal safety move. If you have large dogs who are running in front of you, therefore able to make their own decision based on where you've put them positionally, you are asking for a serious problem if you have the Y connector and a leash with 2 dogs pulling you at the waist. That is asking for an injury on your part. They see a squirrel, they get excited about another dog that's around the corner that you didn't see because you're not there yet, the dog is. Or in her case, her 2 large dogs. So you're asking for them to take off into the face of another dog around the corner, and it's all connected by your waist, and you're running. You're asking to lose some skin on the ground at the very least, if not a back injury, etc. So that's number 5, I think I just mentioned. Shubs move right there. That's not even an intelligent decision to make. Those Y connectors, and if those who don't know what a Y connector is, it's when you have more than one dog, usually 2, and they have sort of a Y shape, and they connect to the collars of the 2 dogs, and then there's a connector that unifies those 2 dogs, and then connects to the end of the leash. So it makes both dogs on the same leash sort of in a Y configuration. So that's the Y connector. And it's fine if you have a Y connector, but not when they're in front. So this lady is beyond shubs, and you see it all the time, and I know you guys have come to me and complained about this, and I'm just going to back you up and validate your gut. This is not okay. You do not block the sidewalk. It is illegal for you to block the sidewalk and not allow me to pass without being molested or have my dogs put in danger. Because if you do, that's called assault and battery on me and my property. So I'm not going to be nice about it when you do stupid things like stop on the street with your jacked up dogs and block me and expect me to let my dogs interact with your dogs without even asking permission, first of all. If somebody wants to drive my car, God help them because it's a mess. But if somebody wants to drive my car, you better freaking ask me first, right? That's the same thing with your dogs. You don't just sit there and go, oh, there's dogs on a leash. We should suddenly stop and communicate. No, I've got things to do, and your dogs are a-holes because you made them that way. I told you not to let the kitties listen, so I warned you. I'm going to